In life, we are likely to experience a lot of barriers and gatekeeping. Often, goalposts are moved faster than we can keep up. Lack of progression in our workplaces, though we work extra hours to meet expectations, the promises of upwards growth remains unfulfilled. Lawmakers preventing access to basic needs and facilities despite giving explicit and concrete promises in their pre-election trails, or even removing things like same-sex parenting learning materials from a public library system. Being left out of social experiences despite giving more attention and care to your friends than is recognised. Lists and lists of check boxes that feel exhausting to keep up with in order to measure up. One area of our lives we experience barriers is in relationships with our parents. For some, a day focusing on celebrating parental figures can be a difficult time. Parental relationships can at times be strained or non-existent. For every story I hear of a patient, loving, affirming parent, and to be clear, those do exist, I have encountered stories of parents that maybe have conditions of their kid not loving who they love to stay under their roof, parents whose love is conditional on their child's political views or religious beliefs, parents who maybe don't fully support why their child is a different gender to what was initially believed or has no gender at all. Some parents truly will never understand why you're going for that arts degree when you could have been such a good lawyer. In some church spaces, the idea of what is spiritually lawful is often discussed openly and loudly. Identities, habits, ideologies, even biblical interpretations are often cited in church spaces as what I've often heard referred to as salvation issues. The faith in our heart is often directly called into question based on who we love, where we were born, our gender identity, our cultural background, or who we ourselves choose to show love to. I found in my previous experiences with evangelical church spaces, this was a regular occurrence, particularly when Paul's letters were brought up. One example from my life, during the Norton Street Festa a few years ago, while participating as part of our church that actively keeps the faith in our actions, highlighting justice, an older member of the public, an attendee of the festival approached, and after getting to know me, let me know that my kind are bound for hell. I love telling this particular story, not because it's a good one, but because it allows me a chance to highlight that this does happen. It's not just a line. The author of today's passage explores the nature of faith, belief, and the recipe that makes up a love for Jesus. Unlike the recipes you see online where you go scroll through paragraphs of ramble to get to the ingredients section, further in chapter 5, John wastes no time in outlining the parts that form love and truth in Christ. John tells us about water and blood as two basic ingredients, but a secret ingredient John focuses on is the Spirit. The Spirit brings a testimony of truth greater than human wisdom. People often figure the way they think and believe is the final say under the mask of wisdom greater than that of the Spirit. Those who aim to gatekeep at a worldly level consider theirs the highest wisdom, suggesting spiritual truths as falsehoods. Human rights signed away, lives lost, buildings broken, families separated, meals unattained. This all happens under a wisdom that suggests that God's truths, a truth that would make love known and call for justice, to be a falsehood. I feel like the reference to water and blood in chapter 5 on their own wouldn't make a lot of sense. These Elements harken back to the humanity of Christ. Christ is a marriage between humanity and the Spirit, the brokenness of humanity and the wholeness, truth and love that is possible through the Spirit. In their connection to humanity through Christ, God reached out to those that human wisdom otherwise discarded. Those who, due to occupation, choice of life partner, cultural background, were counted out from the generalizations of the salvation views of the time. Christ broke those definition barriers down. As mentioned in Galatians 3, there is no longer Jew or Greek. There is no longer slave or free. There is no longer male and female. For all of you are one in Christ Jesus. Unlike the systemic and personal barriers we encounter in our lives, Christ provides a singular, clear path. Rather than dogmatic rule sets that count us out based on background or identity characteristics, we are called into a familial connection. Later in our services, we say the Lord's Prayer in the words Christ taught us. This is opened as a familial parental connection with the words or language that is in our hearts. Our Father in heaven, our Mother in heaven. John tells us in today's reading, in chapter 5, that we are children of God, and that through Christ, true love will be made known. That as their children, we can ask for our daily bread, for forgiveness, for comfort. Here we read that when we ask as their children, God will provide. But watch as I point to this same-sex couple in my neighbourhood. They are children of God, and through Christ, love is being made known through and in them. Okay, but this worship group is a different denomination to me. Worship group who worships differently to me or does justice in a different way to me. And yes, they are children of God. And through Christ, love is being made through and in them. But River, you're a gender diverse person. And I'm a child of God, and true love is being made known through and in me.